Constitutional review to allow for a parliamentary system of government with a president, prime minister, and two deputy prime ministers. Kalonzo says President Uhuru Kenyatta should be accommodated in the new political arrangement if Kenyans support the proposals during the referendum. Kalonzo hinted that the formation of a grand coalition party ahead of the 2022 elections that will bring on board major political players to form an all-inclusive government.
Komarok Shrine, Matungulu constituency of Machakos County, is where Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka converged with the leaders from Ukambani to chart their political destiny. Kalonzo urged members of the Akamba community to support the Building Bridges initiative and review of the constitution to allow for what he called an all-inclusive leadership.
Kama Muigai Uhuru Kenyatta atasema after the new constitution tumeiunda na aseme ndugu Kalonzo mimi nataka kuendelea mbele, nitamwambia nitakusupport. I say, unanielewa? Lakini kama atasema Kalonzo hii mzigo hii chukua, unganisha Kenya, mkabe kama umembo.
Na yule mtu anafikiri sisi tuko mbali na Raila, asahau hiyo ndoto kabisa. Yule mtu anafikiri tuko mbali na Uhuru, asahau hiyo ndoto. Hawa viongozi wote hawa kina Kalonzo wameamua, hakuna Mkamba, hakuna Mkikuyu, hakuna Mjaluo, hakuna Masai. Sisi wa Kenya kikapu moja, hata tukiongozwa na mtu ambaye ana macho, Kenya tunaenda mbele.
To form an invincible coalition ahead of the 2022 polls to actualize the dream.
With ODM, we're going to coalition with ANC, with Ford Kenya, and form one indivisible political juggernaut ambaye ita produce the next prime minister and a new constitution. That is the way we are going.
Moja wa Kamba waungane na sisi wa Kikuyu na Wajaluo, Waluya, tuje kitu kimoja, tuwe na president, deputy president, prime minister, deputy wa kwanza, wa pili, Kenya isonge mbele. Ama namna gani? Wale watakuwa opposition ni sawa, mmoja aende Senate, mwingine aende National Assembly. Tupiganie huko ndani.
Three Ukambani governors, Charity Ngilo of Kitui, Professor Kivutha Kibwana of Makueni, and Dr. Alfred Mutua of Machakos, who snubbed the meeting, came under attack as Kalonzo Musyoka defended his development record in Ukambani under the national platform.
This is a marathon race, and it cannot be run by people who are selfish, who want to even discredit others. Nani ajui mimi sikuwa governor at any time, mwenye kupatiwa mabilioni, na utapia mabilioni haya, alafu unasema ni wewe umefanya hiyo kazi. Public money. CDF, and I want to congratulate our members of parliament, pamoja wa Wiper. I told none of them should accept to be the chairman, be patrons. Wanajua this is public money.
Ati watu wanakutana, wanachoma nyama, wanakula, na wasemi tumeungana kuzuia Ruto asiwe rais Kenya. Tumeungana kuzuia Raila asiwe rais Kenya. Tumeungana Mudavadi asiwe rais Kenya. Tumeungana fulani asiwe rais Kenya. Lakini wanasema tumeungana kutoa Kalonzo katika uongozi wa Ukambani. Wajinga bure kabisa hawa.
Nyinyi Wakamba msicheze. Musilete mchezo. Njia mliipata hata mpaka iko na lami, alafu mnatembea na majembe kuchimba lami uweke potholes. Hiyo safari mtafika lini?
Hakuna gavana ambaye alichaguliwa eneo la Ukambani bila kutumia jina la Kalonzo.
Meeting came at a time when Kalonzo Musyoka's bid to succeed President Uhuru Kenyatta has come under attack from his own backyard, and this offered opportunity for Kalonzo to consolidate his leadership. Patrick Amimo, KTN News.
Nice.
Thank you, Patrick. Now, one of the major sound bites or utterances that came out of that meeting is one that is eliciting a lot of mixed reactions. There's a 4-on-1 just saying that the Wiper leader says he was misquoted on his support for a change in the constitution that will allow a third term. Now, let me quote the utterance that brought this to the fore. He said this, and it was in that story by Patrick Amimo. Tuungane with other communities tumsaidie ndugu Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Kama atasema after the new constitution tumeiunda na mimi nataka kuendelea mbele, nitamwambia na kusupport. Kipchumba, what does that mean?
I think the germane issue, before we address Kalonzo and the shenanigans around whatever he's talking about, when you go to the HR department in this company, they say that when you serve, you retire at 60 years. When you buy water or sugar, you are told there is an expiry date. You are told that it is good up to 2019 December. The danger we are facing now is that politicians come without an expiry package. We are seeing Kalonzo, these are the dangers of an expired mind. Because he's a man telling us things. And you know, most of the time, Kalonzo comes out, he says things that once in a while, when I question my conscience, why will a man who has lived in 3 regimes be talking the way he talks? But in between, I get solace in the word that he was a student of Mulu Mutisia.
All right.
He was once the only referred Kanu blue-eyed boy.
Okay, and but let's audit what he said.
Yes.
Kama atasema after the new constitution tumeiunda na mimi nataka kuendelea mbele, nitamwambia nitakusupport. What do you make of that?
First, the first issue is this. Kalonzo has no political ambition from that statement. He is the only thing he does is to support other people's ambition. 2, when he says nitakusupport, it means he is ready to be subservient to Uhuru Kenyatta post-2022, which means he has nothing to do with the presidency or the prime ministership. The other thing is this.
That would be a third term.
Yes,
which
I ask myself is, Kalonzo being a senior advocate in this country, he knows how the rule of law. Why will Kalonzo talk about introducing term limits while he knows in the second liberation, people died for us to repeal Section 2A? The other thing is this, Ben. When Kalonzo tells the world, when a meeting is called as a Ukambani unity meeting, and the main topic is Uhuru Kenyatta, is Uhuru Kenyatta Akamba? Or at what juncture was Uhuru part of the discussion? And my final point, Kenyans must be reminded that Kalonzo is talking this right on the heels after Murathe visited him. Maybe he has exported the confusion to the good former vice president.
All right, Hesbon, his team is saying that he was alluding to the anticipated constitutional amendments whereby Uhuru could even be an executive prime minister. How do you audit that statement? Do you think he's been misquoted?
No, I don't think. I think as a politician, you need to be very careful on what you state in public, because the meaning is not in what you say. The meaning is in the interpretation. And for all intent and purposes, there are 2 things he's saying. One is that he is not interested in the aspirations of the people he represents. He is looking for a position. So for him to get a position, if it means President Uhuru getting a term beyond the second limit, either as a prime minister or as a president, he doesn't care. And it brings out Kalonzo in a very, very selfish, color, that he is looking for a position and he doesn't mind if Uhuru extends his leadership, if that would guarantee him a position. But I think secondly, maybe that is not the meaning that he intended to transfer, but he gave us the signals that gave us that meaning. But by and large, if you look at the Komarok Declaration and how the whole communication was packaged, there is a lot of confusion in what they intended to communicate and what they eventually communicated. They're talking about uniting Kenyans, but one leader after another made sentiments that politically talked about just a few tribes, actually 3, if I can remember. So you ask yourself, were they purpose-driven in the way they were going to communicate? Did they even prepare that this is the desired effect that we want and this is what we have to say? You listen to Mudhama, you listen to Kalonzo, and of course they had other people that we now understand why they've been rejected everywhere. Isaac Mwaura from Ruiru was rejected because the things that he was saying don't even make sense. How do you sit and say that the other people can go to opposition, will form a government with the president, prime minister, first deputy president? These are people who didn't even understand that bringing Kenyans together is not a question of allocating leadership positions, but that is exactly what they communicated, and it is very unfortunate.
All right, Mark Bichache, what is your take on this particular soundbite? Is it a messaging disaster, or was it something that was intended?
Let me put my strategist hat on and congratulate Kalonzo Musyoka for once making news. Okay, every once in a while, a politician needs to say something so ridiculous that it makes news. So that's a step in the right direction, that you've actually, for once, we're actually discussing what Kalonzo Musyoka said in this particular platform. The other times we discussed Musyoka is when he was carrying an M-Pesa pay bill number on behalf of Raila Odinga, and the next time is when he said he's a mtu wa mkono for Uhuru Kenyatta. And in that instance, then, he has served his master well in terms of praising his master. You see, I'm told that in ancient Council of Elders meeting, there was one elder whose job it was to claim the mistakes of the chief as his own. So if the chief burped, you said, that's my burp. If he passed wind, you said, that's my wind. So he's doing well in that regard in terms of taking this flack. I do not think, by the way, that it is necessary for him to roll back his sentiments, okay? Because what he's doing is he's made himself part of the conversation. It is a mistake to roll back, because then again, he's feeding the mold that Kalonzo is a watermelon, that he's red tomorrow and red today and green tomorrow. So he needs to stay his course. And to be honest, he has a lot of people who support him. There are a lot of people who come out and said that Uhuru is too young. My advice to him is, you are wrong, but you are standing on something, so keep standing on your wrongness. That's the strategic approach that he would take, because if he does take that stand, then he has something to offer to the discourse. So let him take a stand. Let him not roll back, because rolling back will then further make him look like he is a watermelon, as is popular.
He said in that meeting that he doesn't mind that tag.
Yeah, exactly. So if you want to be a watermelon, then he's doing the right thing. Say something today and then have your team retract it tomorrow. This is Kenya. There is very little consequence to such statements, okay? And it's good for him. Listen, this show, can we remember the last time we discussed Kalonzo and gave him the amount of time we're giving him? No. Right. So he's obviously done something right. So if he's done something right, let him stay the whole hog and basically deliver on what he wants to do, which means that he should be setting the agenda for what is Uhuru Kenyatta's next term. Let him become the champion of that, because he does need a color, and he does not have a color. He does not. When we see Kalonzo, Kenyans never know what he stands for. No, but that's the thing. He needs to stand for something. So let him stand for Uhuru continuing to stay. It's not a bad thing. Uhuru right now is enjoying great popularity. The numbers are on his side.
So you think that's what he said indeed?
Yeah, that's what he said. Of course, he followed it up by saying if Uhuru also wants to hand over to him, he's okay with it. But again, rules of communication. You don't start with the greater and then mention something that is lesser. We will not remember what is less.
All right. Dismas?
There are no accidents in politics. During Kalonzo's father's funeral, he said he doesn't mind being the president's handyman. In the Luo, they say Jolwedo. And in Kikuyu, they say Kanda ya Moko. So he said in that meeting. And at the same time, it's repeated in the Komarok Declaration. So you cannot say that it was a mistake, that it was even a slip of the tongue. And in my view, Kalonzo Musyoka has now become a national embarrassment, and he has embarrassed President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Because Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta has indicated in black and white, times above number, that he's not interested in more than 2 terms. And then you've got somebody who claims to have participated in the second liberation, saying that there's no problem in a President Kenyatta having a termless leadership. Then he also claims that we need to have the same for the county governors. I mean, how does somebody in the stature of Kalonzo Musyoka, who at some stage wants to become the president of Kenya, how does he have the guts and the capacity to endorse his competition in that manner? Right. And essentially what he has told members of the Kamba Nation, that I'm part of the president's escort. I'm never, ever, ever going to sit in the presidential limousine, but I'll be happy to be in the president's escort. That's number one. Then number two, he has committed a national blunder And I think some of his statements are a threat to national security by telling us he now wants Jubilee, ODM, ANC, Ford Kenya, and any other political party to merge into another super alliance so that we go for the next election as a single party. I mean, what kind of
let's talk about
thinking is
let's
that?
talk about that. And as we talk about that, it's very important to just chime in and say that there's that message that he has sent saying that he was misquoted on his support for a change in the constitution that will allow a third presidential term. So Kenyans will decide. Let's talk about that.
When the soundbite is so clear, it's very clear, and it's in Swahili.
It is clear to you. So I was making it very clear that it should be clear to everyone.
Yeah, and you know,
let's talk about that super alliance, Jubilee, ODM, Wiper, ANC, Ford Kenya. What would that be?
I mean, you know, part of the reason why people died is because we said that we don't want a single-party democracy in Kenya. That, I mean, you recall, probably you were young then, that if you disagreed with President Moi, the national chairman for KANU called Ukambani, he would summon a disciplinary meeting, you get expelled or suspended from KANU, and then you go back to the village taking care of tea and coffee. We cannot allow as a nation. I mean, Section 2A was repealed after torture, after blood and sweat. So you cannot allow somebody who wants to be a national leader to tell us we are going back to, you know, a single-party dictatorship. That one is unacceptable. And all Kenyans of goodwill must be on the alert that Kalonzo is now part of a cartel that wants to reverse the gains of this constitution. And you know how this is coming in? It's an act of desperation because he wants the Kikuyu vote for his candidate Mawathe, and he wants to bend backwards. He wants to do anything. I mean, there's a candidate called Sumra, there's another one called Rashid Zablon Miyonga. I mean, is it the case that that candidate, Rashid Zablon Miyonga and Sumra, are making Kalonzo so desperate that for him to get the Kikuyu vote, he has to say some things. I even suspect that his son, who represents us in the East African Assembly, he went back and was asking himself, is that really my father? Even the supporters from Ukambani. And I suspect Charity Ngilu, Kivutha Kibwana, and Alfred Mutua, wherever they were, they've now opened champagne bottles, because I suspect they don't take whiskey, and now they're happy because he's creating a vacuum in Cumberland.
Mark, what is your take on that statement? Is it taking this country back to, does that mean one party?
I keep saying that the will of the people is sovereign. If the Kenyan people decide that Kenya is a one-party state, then so be it, that is them. There's nothing, listen, a one-party state is not an evil thing. What you do with a one-party state is what is evil. Burundi today is under dictatorship. It is not a single-party state. China is a single-party state. So it's what we do. So the idea is not what is wrong. It is how it is executed that then makes it wrong. Now, the problem also is that the propensity of abuse in a single-party state is much higher than in a multi-party state. But also in this country, we must ask the question, do we really have political parties or do we have special purpose vehicles? Because then we do not have a multi-party democracy. We just have individuals who move from formation to formation to make political parties.
But there is political competition.
That's Kalonzo thinking right there, that we don't have political parties, then now we can do away with them.
This must, you've been on record to say we don't have political parties, so let me just finish my argument, okay? let me just finish my argument. You've been on record saying the same thing. Yes. So what I am simply saying, I'm not a proponent of a single party state. I think it's useless, okay? But at the same time, we must understand that in this particular dispensation where we are in, where we are having very broad discussions in terms of the future of the country, we cannot throw away Kalonzo Musyoka's idea just because it came from Kalonzo Musyoka. For example, if merging all these tribal formations, like Ford Kenya is a tribal formation, Wiper is a tribal formation, if folding them into one particular party will then give tribes allegiance to one party and therefore make us more patriotic, then that's an idea worth exploring. But at the same time, I must say, and I repeat, that a single party state is most likely a very straight route to returning to dictatorship.
And then at the same time, what is your take on this, bearing in mind that one of the key tenets of the second liberation was political competition? Would that erode that?
You know, I think I don't want to say much about what is wrong with the Komarok Declaration. I need to be proactive. That the intention of Kalonzo Musyoka is very clear, that because our political contests have been very ferocious, very volatile and violent, we need a solution, that we need to deal with that, this competition that is not very healthy. But I think the solution that he's providing is very lazy. I mean, it's so lazy thinking that for you to run away from contested competitions, you need to come together so that there is no competition. I don't get that. Because the essence of multipartyism is that political parties contend on ideas. And the failure of Wiper Kenya, I respect Kalonzo because for one, in 2007, under ODM Kenya, together with Kibageni, we worked with him. But I think he has still a long way to go for the simple reason that if you cannot build your party, then you'll be advocating for other parties to merge with you. Look at it this way, we have KANU. KANU has never gone out calling for people to form coalitions. ODM has never done that. Jubilee has never done that. They've built their parties, and their parties have become attractive for other parties to work with. And I think going forward, that is what the elites within Wiper, the guys who believe in Kalonzo Musyoka, need to rein in his mind. That it is not so much about going in public and telling people we want to form a party. Who told them that Jubilee wants to identify with Wiper? I'm not so sure ODM would want to identify with Wiper if that is what they call national leadership. How difficult is it for them to put their house in order, for them to rally their members, to start articulating issues beyond telling people that we'll come together, for them to start looking for substantive people to address issues, not the Isaac Mauras of this world who are talking about tribal coalitions.
Finally, very quickly, Kipchumba, the three governors in Ukambani were not there. He said they can contest for the leadership, for leadership positions if they do it in a civil way. Where does the politics of Ukambani stand, coming at the back of that?
I'm happy Kalonzo and Charity Ngilu, Professor Kivuta Kibwana and the Machakos governor were not part of that dislocation of common sense exercise. Because at the end of the day, politics, the virtue that we are in politics means that we are in competition. Kalonzo Musyoka should know that even the people in Ukambani need competing ideologies for their interest to be entrenched within the framework of this country. The other thing, this is a republic, and in a republic, one of its major tenets is that there will be free and fair elections, which will be based on political competitions. Whenever you can, we cannot, just because there is an issue of cohesiveness in this country, we cannot mop up parties together now as a cure to cohesion. Cohesion can be cured by other means, and one of it is not what Kalonzo is prescribing to it.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Let's take a quick commercial break. We are back shortly for one final round of discussions this morning. When we come back, we shall be taking a look at Parliament's entry as members of the 12th Parliament come back from recess after the Christmas break. In the entry, key among the issues I think they'll be looking at is the budget-making process, the supplementary budget, a couple of government bills which Parliament will be looking at, as well as political intrigues that have emerged. Some strains, pundits say, inside the majority Jubilee Party. Just what gives? Restructuring the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, will that be